Hello there, good to see you again. Welcome back to another session on PL SQL. In this session, we'll be taking a look at the use of select into statement in PL SQL. So what is the use of select into statement? It's going to help us in fetching data from the tables and moving that data to variables on the PL SQL block. After this, we'll be taking a look at the types of parameters a procedure can take. We all have seen what is a procedure, and a procedure can take in parameters, and there are three different types of parameters a procedure can take. That is in, out, and in, out. We'll be looking at all these things with a lot of code samples without wasting much of a time. Let's straight away go to the demonstrations. Now let's take a look at the use of select into statement in PL SQL. So I have this employee table in my database, select star from employee. So we have name for the employee, SSN, salary, that is given as new salary, supervisor SSN. This is department number and designation of the employee. Let me describe this table. So you have name to be varchar 2 of 10, SSN, new salary, and supervisor SSN, and department number to be of number data types, and designation to be of varchar 2 of 10. So what is it we are going to perform here is we are going to get the salary of a specific employee. Say here employee SSN is 112. I just want to move this value to a variable in my PL SQL block. So the value is 35,000. I want to retrieve this from this employee table and move this value into a variable. And we are just going to work with one specific record here. We're not going to bring multiple records. That's a different story. So our focus will be on getting data for one specific employee and moving that data, that is the salary here, into variable in the PL SQL block. Let's see how to perform that. For this, let me go with an anonymous block. You can also create a procedure. So declare, we'll declare salary. This is the variable, local variable inside my PL SQL block, which is going to hold the salary returned from the table. So this is salary to be of type number, initially is assigned to 0. Now we'll go to the begin section and we have to fetch the salary from the employee table. What is the clause for fetching what is the query for fetching the salary from the employee table? Select new sal from employee, where we are just working for one single record of an employee. SSN is equal to 112. Now this new salary should be returned into this variable salary. The value that we are fetching from the table should be moved to this variable. So this is where we are going to use into which variable? Salary. Say select the data from the table, that is new salary, into this variable, that is the local variable salary, from this table for this employee. So that's the use of select into. We are moving the data from the table for one specific employee, for one specific column, into a variable in our PL SQL block. And then we can print that value, dbms underscore output dot put underscore line salary. Now we'll end this anonymous block, execute this. So 35,000 is the salary for the employee 112. So 35,000 was retrieved. So new salary, that is having 35,000, was moved to salary, that is the local variable here, and we are printing the local variable. So what is the use of this? Now you can go ahead with an if condition. If salary is greater than 35,000, we can say is a employee who is enjoying life, or else we can say employee who is not enjoying life. So we have the procedural capabilities now being added to SQL. This is what I was telling you in the first session. So you can do a lot of things with PL SQL that you cannot directly achieve with SQL. I hope you all have understood the use of select into for bringing data for a specific record into a variable on the PL SQL block. Say suppose I want to print the name, move the name and salary to two local variables here. So we're going to use multiple variables, move the name and salary of the employee to two variables here. How to perform that? Let's again go with declare. First we'll have employee name. See, when you're giving the data type for the employee name, we should match the data type in the table. So it's varchar 2 of 10. So I'll just say ename varchar 2 of 10 That's it. And here we're going to have new salary, that is employee salary, I will say, that is of type number. We'll initially assign that to 0. So these two variables are local variables in my PL SQL block. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fetch the data from the database. So we'll go with the begin section. How will you fetch the data? We'll write the query, select new salary. I will say name comma new salary from employee where SSN is equal to 112. So this query is going to fetch the name and new salary, that is salary from the employee table. So it's going to fetch the name, that is Sam, and salary 35,000 for employee with SSN 112. So that's the SQL query. But what is that we have to do? We have to move this data into these variables. So what we have to do here is we can use the into, select into, right? So into what variables? E-name. So these are the local variables we have inside our PL SQL block, and e-salary. So it's going to fetch name from the database, new salary from the database, move it to e-name and e-salary from this table for this specific record. And after this process, what we have to do? We have to print the employee name and salary out, because these are local variables, right? dbms underscore output dot put underscore line. So we'll first print the name, and then we can concatenate. So this is the concatenation operator with some space in between. Again, concatenate the salary of the employee from the local variables, and end the anonymous block, execute it now. So we have Sam, that is e-name, that's the local variable here, salary is 35,000. So what is that we have done here? We are executing this query, and we are fetching name and salary from the database, from the table. We are moving it to the local variables here, and then finally we are printing the value in the local variables to the user. In our previous example, we were fetching name attribute and salary attribute from the table, and we were moving these values to two local variables in our PL SQL block. The problem with that kind of a declaration is, if we change the data type inside our database, say if I change the data type for the name attribute or the salary attribute, then there is a need for us to change the data types in the PL SQL code too. So now we are going to take a look at an example wherein we are going to anchor the data types of the attributes inside the table to the local variables in the PL SQL code. So what is the use of this? If I change the data type here, then there is no need for me to change the data types for the variables declared inside my PL SQL block. There's nothing to worry if you're confused. We'll be taking up a simple example, and then you'll be able to understand what this is all about. So let's start coding this anonymous block, declare. So I have two attributes, employee name. Now I'm not going to declare it as varchar 2 of 10. What I'm going to do here is, this type is, it just maps to the employee table name attribute percentage type. So what is that we are saying here is, the variable employee name, which is a local variable, the data type for this variable is nothing but the data type for the name attribute inside the employee table that's present inside our database. So we are mapping the data type for the attribute inside the database to the local variable that we use in our PL SQL code. Likewise, for employee salary, I call that e-salary, that's the local variable. What is the data type for this variable? It is nothing but it is anchored with the data type for the new salary variable inside our employee table. So we give percentage type. That's how you anchor new sal percentage type. And we'll go to the begin section. Now we'll fetch the name and new salary. So we'll do select name comma new sal into, we'll move the values to the local variable e-name, e-salary, from which table? Employee table, where SSN equals to 112. And we'll also print dbms underscore output dot put underscore line. We'll print the name of the employee, concatenate that with some spaces, and salary for the employee. We'll end the anonymous block, then we'll execute this. Okay, the point here is set server output on. This is a very important step. Only when you have this command working, only when you execute this command, you'll be able to see the output. So now let's see what is the output here. Sam 35,000. So we have fetched name and new salary into these two local variables. We are printing the values in the local variables. But in what way it is different from the previous example that we have seen? In the previous example, we are declaring this as varchar 2 of 10, this as this salary to be of type number. But here we are anchoring the data type of this variable to be the data type for this name attribute inside the employee table. So ename directly takes the data type for this particular attribute inside the employee table. eSalary maps to the data type of new sal that's present inside the employee table. What is the advantage here? If I change the data type for an attribute inside my database, then there is no need for me to change the declarations in my PL SQL block. I hope you were able to follow this. The next concept we are going to see is we are going to fetch an entire row from the database. So earlier we were fetching one particular value, and we were also fetching multiple values, and we were mapping it to multiple variables. Now we'll be fetching just one specific row, an entire row for an employee, and then we'll be printing name, salary, SSN, salary, like that to the output. Let's see how to fetch a row, a record from the table. So what is that we are going to see here? How to fetch an entire record for an employee and map it to or assign it to a variable in the PL SQL block. So for this, we'll take up an anonymous block as usual, declare, and we're going to fetch a record from the table. So I call this variable as eRow, representing a row from the table. And what is the data type for this? It's employee percentage row type. So this employee percentage row type tells us that this variable is going to hold a record from the employee table. So that's how you declare the type of the variable. And we'll go to the begin section. We're going to fetch the record for the employee with SSN 112. So for this, we'll use a select query, select star from employee, where SSN is equal to 112. Now this will fetch the record from the database for this employee. We should move this record to this variable eRow. So we'll use the into clause here, select star into eRow. So we are moving that record into this variable we have created. Okay. Now we'll access the variable and print the attributes from the record. So we'll print dbms underscore output underscore line. We'll access eRow dot the employee name, eRow dot the employee SSN, and we'll also print eRow dot the salary. So you can print all the attributes for that record. For time constraint, let me just print 3 attributes and the PL SQL block, execute it. So here you are able to see Sam 112 35,000. So what we have done here is we have fetched an entire record for an employee, mapped it to this local variable that's of type row type employee. It means that it's going to represent a record from the employee table. And after moving that record to this variable, we will be able to access the attributes for the record by just giving eRow.name. Here SSN is the SSN of the employee, new sal is the salary of the employee. I hope you have understood how to use the select into clause. See, the select into statement, we have used it for fetching one specific value from the table. We have used it for fetching multiple values from the table, and we have mapped it to multiple variables. We have also seen how to anchor the data type for an attribute in the database to the local variable on the PL SQL block. Finally, we have seen how to fetch an entire record and display the attributes for that record to the user. So that's the use of select into clause. I hope you all have understood this. Now let us see the types of parameters a procedure can take. So there are three types of parameters. One is in, another parameter is out, and another parameter is a combination of in and out. So when you're calling a procedure, you can pass a parameter to the procedure. When you're passing the parameter, if you can just read from that parameter, it's called in type parameter. From within the procedure, if you can write data to the parameter, it's called an out type parameter. If that parameter is both readable and writable, we call it as in out type parameter. So nothing to worry about. We'll take up some small examples. We'll create some procedures and you'll be able to understand the difference between all these three types of parameters. First, let us take a look at in type parameter. What is it? So let me create a procedure, a simple procedure, create or replace procedure. I'll give my name Satish underscore in type. And now I can pass this parameter to this procedure. I'll call this variable as num1. The type is in and the data type is number. We are passing a variable, a parameter to this procedure. And we'll just go with the begin section. What we are going to perform inside this procedure is we'll find the square of the number, dbms underscore output dot put underscore line. We'll just find num1 star num1. That is, we'll just display the square of that number. And the procedure created. Procedure is created. Now let us call the procedure. Execute Satish underscore in type. And then you'll pass the parameter. Say if I pass 2, so 2 is mapped to num1. It's an in type, which means you can't write data to num1. You can just read the data from num1. So what will be the output? 4. So we are passing the parameter, finding num1 star num1 and printing it inside the procedure. So that is an in type parameter. Now let us see what is an out type parameter. Is the reverse of in type. Say you are reading from in. What is an out type parameter? You can write data to an out type parameter from within the procedure. Let me clear screen. Now let us see what is an out type parameter. So let's create this simple procedure again. Create or replace procedure. Satish underscore out type. And we'll have three parameters here. That is, num1 is the first variable, it's of type in. Its data type is number. Num2 is the next parameter, it's also of type in. Its data type is number. Num3 is the third parameter. This type is out and the data type is number. So we're getting two numbers as input and we'll be finding the sum of these two numbers. We'll be writing back the final sum in num3. So that's an out type parameter because you'll be writing the result here. And we'll go with the begin section. So what is it we are going to do here is num3. We'll assign num3 to be num1 plus num2. See, when it is an out type parameter, you can write data to it. That is the meaning. When it is in type, you can't write data to it. You'll just read data from it. So now we are writing data to it and then we'll end this procedure. End. Procedure is finished. Now we'll create an anonymous block to call this procedure. And here I'll have two variables, that is a to b of type number. We'll assign a value 2 to this. Likewise, b to b of type number. We'll assign a value 3 to this. We'll also have a variable c to be of type number. This is 0. And we'll go with the begin section here. We'll be calling this procedure Satish underscore out type. We'll pass a, comma b, comma c. And what we'll do is we'll print the value in c written by the procedure. So dbms underscore output dot put underscore line c. And I'll just go to the next line. Now we'll end the anonymous block and we'll execute this. So you see 5 is the output. So how did we achieve this? A is 2, B is 3. So A and B, 2 and 3 is mapped to the int type variables. num1 takes 2, num2 takes 3. Now num3 is nothing but 0. We are finding num3 to be num1 plus num2. We are writing num3. So num3 takes now 2 plus 3, 5. So 5 is returned to num3. So here we have written the data, right? So num3 is coming back in C, and when we are displaying C out, you are getting the end result 5. I hope you have now understood the difference between in and out type parameters. Now let us take a look at the final parameter type, that is in-out parameter. What is in-out parameter? You can read data from the parameter. You can also write data to the same parameter. So let's create a simple procedure here. Create or replace procedure. Satish in-out type. And we'll just have one variable num in space out. Maybe I'll just write it in capital letters. In space out. So this is where I made a mistake. I just gave in without space out, and I ended up with an issue. So I'm just telling you, don't just say in without space out. Have in space out, and then it's of type number. Is. So what is that I'm going to perform here is, we'll go at the begin. It's num1. See, I'm writing value to num1 now. Num1 is nothing but num1 star num1. So I am assigning some data to num1. So I am reading num1. So here it is reading. And then I am also writing to num1. So it's in out. That's it. And we'll end the procedure and create the procedure. Procedure created. Now we'll call this procedure declare. I'll have this variable to be of type number. Let me give the value to be 3 and begin. Let's call this procedure Satish underscore in out type. And then we'll pass this variable A, and then we'll also print the variable out, dbms underscore output underscore line A, and then finally we'll end the anonymous block, execute this. So 9. So what is the meaning here? It's just reading in 3 star 3 to be 9, and it's also writing 9, populating 9 here, and that's why we are getting this 9 back. So you're able to print 9 as the result out. I hope you are now clear with the 3 types of parameters a procedure can take in PL SQL: in, out. With that, we are coming to an end of this session. If you have any queries, please leave it as comments below. I'll be looking at it. I hope you had a nice time listening to this lecture. Thank you all for listening. Take care.